All right, welcome to the Ramble On. I'm Brendan,
I'm Nick.
and now let's dissect this monster of a movie. So,
Puns.
but
Who doesn't deserve them?
all right. Now I didn't read the book, but I did watch the 1980s adaptation of said book.
The only thing to really know about this, because I've never read the book at length, but I know the basics, is in the book the telling of the story is the adults come to town, and then through flashbacks they have context and pacing given to them through the flashbacks to when they were kids.
Right.
Like, that's the biggest thing about the difference between the movie adaptations and the books, because the movie adaptations keep on splitting the story between the adults and the kids. Which, the biggest problem with that, and the series is said in this movie as well, is that the adult part, without the context of the kid part, is constantly filling in their actions, explaining why they feel so emotional about things, explaining why he's freaking out about this kid. Because we need to cut back to the relevant moments of the childhood that inform the adulthood. Is the second part feels really flat and has zero motivation without the flashbacks to the kid parts. This is a problem in the 1980s version. This is a problem in this version.
Right. No, we still have that consistent problem present in the movie. Overall, so I think both Nick and I were very satisfied with the characters.
No, not in this movie.
Well, I mean the cast. The cast.
Oh, yeah, the cast was fine. They generally did a good enough job.
Right.
Admittedly, I think that Jessica Chastain played it a little bit boring for her character.
Yeah, she did.
And I think that to a certain extent, Bill Hader and who was I guess James Ranson, they felt a little bit like they weren't really the characters they played as kids. They were just kind of new characters that now exist.
Right. No, they went through a complete metamorphosis that was not the original character.
But yeah, so I think the casting was fine. It wasn't especially great, it wasn't especially terrible. But the characters all felt really neutered in this film, especially compared with the previous film.
Right.
And most notably, I want to talk about Beverly Marsh and Mike Hanlon. Mike Hanlon, god damn. Yeah, I want to talk about those two characters the most, though, for characters who kind of really got the short end of the stick for the sequel.
Sure. Let's start with Bev then. So in It Chapter 1, she overcame a lot. She overcame a lot of adversity and made herself a very powerful side character.
Well, the main character, I'd argue, but yeah, with Bev in Chapter 1, her biggest things were being emotionally abused and kind of rising above that and kind of getting some self-confidence in herself after hanging out with her friends.
Right.
Being a tomboy. Kind of having to cope with the problems of wanting to be one of the guys, but having to accept that she's a woman despite that. Having to deal with attempted rape, I think, in the first part, if I remember right.
Yeah, there was like either, was it on Bauer's side?
And there was the very minor point that she wasn't sure who the poem came from, and she just kind of assumed it was the guy she already liked.
Yeah.
In Chapter 2, she loses the part about being abused. The movie opens with her leaving an abusive relationship, but it never really touches on her being abused, even for her personalized horror stories. It mostly deals with her being in the bathroom and dealing with blood stuff, which is very much her problem is being a woman.
Also, we get a very scary old woman speaking. I mean,
which is another personalized horror for menopause and dealing with old age as a woman. So the Beverly went from being an emotionally abused, emotionally stunted woman who was dealing with conflicting issues of wanting to be one of the guys while also having to deal with the problems of being being daddy's little girl and having problems with growing up, to just being a woman.
Right.
And the center of a love triangle.
Oh god, that fucking love triangle.
That's all her character is in this movie. She went from being interesting and having multiple dimensions to just being who is a woman.
No, her character was very diluted. Same with some of the other characters.
The other I mentioned, Mike Hanlon, is the worst about this. Because over the 27-year skip, he just becomes a different character.
Now,
there's young Mike Hanlon, and then there is 27 years later a new person who was also named Mike Hanlon, who only exists to give exposition.
Now, in his defense, he existed in the previous movie as exposition. I mean,
I don't think so.
He was taken out, but he didn't. So in the 1980s film, he did not go into the Spider Cave because Bowers wounded him tremendously. Here, I mean, he existed as exposition and as a plot device to bring the Loser Club back together. But I mean,
what else did he do? Like, he didn't even get any personalized horror moments. He got nothing.
He didn't get any personalized horror moments in the previous film either. I mean, this poor guy is just the token.
He's the mystical Negro, as they call him. Stephen King loves these kinds of characters.
He does, right. We see him in The Shining, etc., etc.
Just an old black man who has all the answers and comes in to inform the rich white crew of exactly what they need to do, and then he doesn't have any character or development.
No, he's just demoted to exposition, which is a real shame, because in the first one, he was...
In part one, he had some interesting stuff going on for him, right? Like, he worked in the butcher shop. He had constantly this imagery of butchered animals, slaughtered animals, that was accompanying him everywhere he went. That was a big part of Pennywise's terrors with him, was the idea that he would also be a slaughtered animal.
Yeah.
Race metaphors.
Right.
In this one, he loses that.
He does.
He loses basically everything that makes him interesting.
No, he devolves back into the Stephen King exposition that he was originally intended to be, which is a damn shame.
That, and he goes to the edge of town to find some Native Americans who live in teepees and wigwams and smoke peyote and do ancient rituals.
That's right,
which feels racist and lazy at the same time.
It is lazy. I mean,
it's pretty racist too.
And racist too, but no, just...
And the fact that these Native Americans exist not in like the 1970s or 60s, which would have been like the original books or TV specials, but in the 1990s.
That's a good point. Holy shit.
Or early 2000s. This feels unapologetically bad to do.
I see what you mean now. You're right. Because in the 1980s film, it took place in the 60s and 70s. For a more modern audience, this adaptation took place in 2016, or give or take.
Yeah, it feels weird. It feels really weird. So, if you like the characters of Beverly Marsh, who was the strong Tom girl who had to cope with both being a woman and being one of the guys, or if you liked Mike Hanlon, who had to deal with being a minority in a very racist, openly racist town, expect nothing from either of them.
No, they get demoted to either exposition or just.
And if you liked Stanley for being who he was as a kid, he commits suicide in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Oh yeah,
he's not here.
They tried to give him a more redeemable light for his reasons for suicide, but it doesn't quite work. It feels a tad forced.
And one more thing about this movie being weirdly, like, attempting to be #woke, but not ever making the effort. Let's talk about, I think it was Richie, who was the guy who was pretty obviously gay.
Oh, yeah.
But they never used the word gay or homosexual in this movie.
Right, they just strongly implied it.
They strongly imply that
they never actually confirmed, yeah.
Because you can't risk saying someone's gay. Like, he doesn't... He like, goes to the bridge and carves in his initials with Eddie's initials next to it.
Yeah.
Which, it felt so spineless at the movie. Like, it just... You literally had a gay man get assaulted, murdered, and thrown into a river in the opening. You kill kids constantly. Just say the word gay.
Yeah, no kidding.
You can do it, buddy.
Oh my god, the opening itself. What was the point of that?
To make Stanley commit murder.
Oh my god. No, and also, it's 2016. He's a gay character in 2016, for God's sakes.
The worst part is for half the cast getting sniped for their emotional interest in characters in general. The other cast don't get anything interesting to make up for it.
No, not even remotely.
Even they get flanderized. They kind of just get one particular talking point they want, and then That's their arc for the movie.
And this is where I feel like that a lot of that is the fault of the pacing of the movie, because like I said in the American recut, it just keeps transitioning, which is good because you don't want to linger in an unnecessary part of the story, but all the same, come on,
if we want to dig into what the central problem of the movie is, I'll let you start with that one and kind of nail down your points, and then I'll give my own input on what I think the biggest central problem of the movie is.
Right. I think the biggest problem with this movie is the huge CGI expose. I mean, they were trying to redeem the air quote sins of the previous film. Well, yes, a giant fucking spider is stupid. I'd still rather have the spider than whatever Pennywise actually was.
Spider Clown.
Yeah, Spider Clown, which that's dumb. That's even dumber than the original Spider.
Yeah, I think that for me, the biggest problem I have with this movie is that because we have 6 different protagonists all at once, we're never allowed to have anybody get development as a side character, which always works better for most characters, is being a side character, for being interesting. And because we have 6 different protagonists, every single one of them has to have equal screen time, which is why the movie kind of wanders around for a good hour and a half of it while everybody splits up to go deal with their separate shit.
That's a good way of putting it. It does wander around. My God.
And then the movie also lacks any motivation to actually move forward because of the split between the kids and the adults. So you run into this problem where everybody just wants to say, okay, let's take our time, plan this out, take this really slow, and then somebody has to just like see a kid get killed in front of them and be like, that's it, no more fun and games, I'm just gonna go there and punch that clown right in the nose.
And his big stupid red nose.
And yeah, that's what you have to do in this to get it like moving, because these characters have no motivation to be there. Like this is the problem the screenplay runs into a lot, because these characters logically would all flee the town and run. Like multiple times this comes up, and the only thing that keeps them there is Beverly holding them hostage because she knows that they'll die. But we never.
Oh yeah.
We never see this. We don't see any evidence of this. We don't know if she's lying or not, and we don't get to do anything with the fact that she has this knowledge. Like it feels like that's just a plot point for convenience to keep them in town, and that's it.
No, I mean, this was a secondary problem I had with this movie. They introduced certain plot devices that didn't quite have as much context or elaboration it deserved or needed to kind of make sense. Like the Native American ritual thing, like fuck.
Or that just shows up to fill us in on what's happening.
I mean, it explains why they don't bring guns, but all the same, fuck you, movie.
I mean, the worst part is they don't use that. Like they try the ritual or whatever, but it doesn't work.
It doesn't. I mean, it summons him, but that's it. And no, like you were saying.
Oh god, we'll get into the end of the movie a bit later on, but it's dumb as hell.
It is. Or like you said, Bev's sudden powers of
she has the shining.
Yeah, she has the shining because she saw the deadlights. You know, I mean, that needed more context or elaboration.
There was a lot of stuff in this movie where if they had bothered to take the time and were like a competent, not corporate movie, they could have had some really interesting stuff.
This felt incredibly corporate. I mean, both movies were corporate, but this one had a more clear corporate feel to it.
Like, imagine if the movie opened up with like the deaths of all the characters, so we don't know who actually died, and then Bev wakes up like, I can't believe it, and then turns out like, oh, he actually kissed his wrists in the bathtub. Who else is dead? Yeah, that would have been an interesting opening. Right.
No, I agree. That would have, instead of the homosexual couple dying like that, we could have started the movie with Bev having a nightmare of not only past trauma, but also the death of her friends. That would have been boss.
The other thing, too, digging more into Bev especially, is the fact that he slit his wrist in a bathtub is something where I still kind of have a lingering sense that Bev is completely full of shit when she's saying that she saw them dying, because who wouldn't say, like, if you heard, like, he slit his wrist and then finish the sentence with, in the bathtub, like, Those go together. That's just movie imagery. Everybody who slits their wrist does it in the bathtub in movies.
Right.
That's what you're used to. Unfortunately, that's what you expect. Like even I could have done what Bev did, which you're like, he slid his wrist in the bathtub. Oh no! Like yeah, that's the second half of that.
Right. That little epiphany there. Right.
That's the only evidence we have of Bev having these powers. So she could have been talking out of her ass because she's in an abusive relationship and has nowhere to go.
Right. No,
which makes
instead
her
they
way
just
more manipulative and awful a character, which nobody wants.
They just introduced this plot mechanic for the sake of convenience and to anchor everyone into this damn town and committing them to this plot of killing the damn clown. And also, and one other problem I had, the clown's death confused me. So, isn't it its weakness the deadlights? What was the heart thing?
This is spoilers for the ending of the movie, I guess. Because Pennywise doesn't have any defined limits on what he can and can't do, and because he's such a nebulous character, the only thing the movie latches onto is that he has to obey the rules of living beings. So, because he has to obey the rules of living beings, he must have a beating heart.
That's feasible, and I'll buy that, but that didn't get explained at all. Like, I mean...
It was some bullshit they latched onto because they were like, well, how do we finish this movie if we don't do it in the stupid way the original ended?
Right.
Which, by the way, they harped on that a lot. Where Billy's very clearly a self-inserted OC for Stephen King.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Because there's 6 times in the movie where they say, didn't like the ending.
Oh my god, this was a big ego stroke for Stephen King.
Stephen King's in this too, by the way. He was the shopkeeper.
Yeah, he's a shopkeeper in a pawn shop.
And the only thing he says is, didn't like the ending. Like, okay, Stephen, yeah, we get it.
He takes a jab at himself, but he still strokes his ego.
Yeah, movie, we get it. It has a silly ending, but yours isn't any better.
You've made Dreamwalker and a whole bunch of other shitty movies, King.
It's the weirdest thing because the movie harps on this idea while he's in the Hollywood set, which no meta, but when he's there and they're like, why can't you just have a nice simple ending that wraps everything up? How about a happy ending?
Right.
And then he's like, no, it has to be a dark ending, a real ending. And I'm right there with him, yeah, let's have an ending that's interesting instead of just a stupid storybook ending.
Right.
For a horror movie. But no, it just goes into a storybook, and then we lived happily ever after, and we remembered everything, and we stayed in touch, and we loved each other, and we became each other's families, even though we're all married.
Yeah, right.
Which, speaking of, I think that in the case of Stanley, especially, Stanley as a character, he has a wife.
Oh, he had a wife in the previous version, too.
He has a wife and a boyfriend.
What? I missed that one. What the hell?
Remember in the opening when Stanley's on the date with his boyfriend?
Oh, shit.
And then his boyfriend gets murdered and he commits suicide because his boyfriend died?
Oh.
So Stanley was a cheating asshole who was with his boyfriend and couldn't come out of the closet because he was too much of a coward.
Was that Stanley? That was Adrian and some other guy. Who, I remember the opening, but...
Didn't he have the same, hair fob thing or whatever?
He kind of... Oh my god, you're right. That was fucking Stanley.
I think it was. I think that was the problem with the opening was that if that wasn't Stanley, then who the fuck was that?
I don't know. Some cutaway red shirt. I don't know.
Because that was the only part of the movie where the town of the town of Derry. The town of Derry actually freaking existed. Because remember how that was a big part of the town of Derry was the adults all being really sketchy and all being pretty racist and homophobic.
Yeah.
Because the clown that was living there and killing people.
Creepy Silent Hill shit up there. Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't exist in this movie.
No.
It was just kind of a generic town.
It was a town that was there. No weird malice or
undertones or yeah. It was just a shame.
Yeah. I think I pretty much said what I needed to say about this movie. I mean, I've clearly exemplified my problems.
Yeah, if you want to go into final summaries, we can. I don't think there's that much to say about this movie because it's about as empty as it looks.
Right.
Yeah, so if you want us to get started on that.
All right. Well, final thoughts. I'd still see it in theaters, especially for the interesting CGI, but the story was not up to my liking. I did not like the story. I preferred the 1980s version more because the stupid spider clown was so damn dumb. But
Tim Curry's much better as Pennywise.
I agree. Bill Skarsgård and Tim Curry did a good job with the clown, but the writing employed in this one was awful.
Speaking of CGI, just to back for a second, the CGI in this was hot garbage.
Oh yeah.
Like they got really fucking lazy with the CGI. Like it was just like dead body CGI, which it looked like just computer animated garbage.
No, you could clearly tell what's CGI. You can clearly tell it is CGI. Like it doesn't blend in with the background or characters well at all.
Like with the old woman when she goes from like being kind of this very eccentric, silly as fuck character who's like naked to being like a CGI monster. Like she just looks night and day.
Yeah,
it looks awful.
Truly,
it is really ugly, cheap CGI.
It's a blemish. It's so ugly. Well, I mean, the monster itself is ugly.
It's supposed to be ugly, obviously, but the CGI is just not quality.
Agreed. No, that was a recurring problem I had with the CGI. They really cheaped down the
CGI this time. Because, and that's the thing too, is that Pennywise is supposed to be like very like specific imagery, supposed to be like very specific imagery for each person, but it was all just these kind of gray corpses.
Yeah!
And that was it. Lazy as fuck.
Lazy as fuck.
Yeah, so my own 2 cents on the movie as a whole. This movie is lazy as fuck. The CGI is lazy. Pennywise is used in the laziest possible ways. They can't think of anything to do aside from what the original movie did. Because like Pennywise is just kind of a spider clown, and then the movie just kind of gets reduced from being a reflection on growing up, dealing with changing bodies, to just being that movie with the spooky clown.
Yeah, exactly.
The characters generally get sniped. Their motivations become one-dimensional at best. Sometimes characters get demotivated to a point where it's kind of sexist or racist. This movie is too cowardly to use the word gay or homosexual. It is extraordinarily corporate in everything it does. It is a hollow, empty, boring movie.
They did try to strike where the iron was hot with the first film, but ultimately missed and broke the blade. So, yeah.
Even the first movie was, at the time I remember thinking, they just cannot keep their fucking hands off of Pennywise, can they? Can we get 5 seconds without him popping up somewhere? And I remember thinking, like, this is just a Stranger Things cast. This is just Stranger Things, but not good.
I'll agree to that, because there's no real character build in this movie.
But both these movies, for what little good there was in Chapter 1, it gets lost because characters get sniped. The town of Derry becomes just a place.
Just a place, a spot in Maine.
And we didn't even mention the character of what was his name again? Henry Bowers, because he's not a fucking character in this.
No,
he just kind of shows up, stabs the guy in the face, and then gets killed.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all he does.
No.
He gets built up so hard in this movie as if he's going to do some really important stuff, and then he doesn't do anything.
He gets an extraordinary scene in the previous movie where he kills his dad and goes to juvie, but I mean...
He gets built up so much for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I think the idea was that this is like kind of Freddy Krueger style evil, where like the whole point of Pennywise is that I can only do things that are psychological, but I need a host to do the physical things.
Right.
Except he can still do physical things anyways, so his powers are too nebulous. Anyways, though,
I know. What's the point of the hitman?
Back to summary. Nothing in this movie really works. It's a waste of time. Don't watch it.
All right. Well, this has been Brendan.
This has been Nick.
And we will see you at the next dumpster fire.
See ya.